run out of money.
We were probably over-optimistic about the timescale involved in commencing clinical trials. It's a little bewildering for us to understand the reluctance of many of the regulatory authorities to approve a clinical trial for a drug that has been on the European markets for the best part of 25 years.
The FDA was asked to comment on Medizone's application.
Or for marketing, we're not allowed to comment on that. Even on the existence of such an application.
The process of putting things through the FDA is so expensive that no small company has a chance. Any small company that wants to put something through the FDA would have to be bought up by a large conglomerate in the pharmaceutical industry. And this, I think, is true in ozone as well. There just wasn't enough money to fight the FDA.
In the FDA, drug companies have representatives on nearly all the committees. If there's something which may be very effective and may undersell the average drug company, of course they're not going to be very pleased if that gets developed. It might be very difficult for them to compete with that. And ozone is obviously inexpensive to produce. It's very potent. If it works as half as well as the Germans claim it is, everyone should be using it. You know.
Nobody in the pharmaceutical industry can sell ozone. That's a main reason. When we can find a way to sell ozone, I'm sure that ozone is the most important drug in the world.
Despite extensive documentation submitted to the FDA, the agency has publicly condemned ozone therapy. In May 1993, the director of the FDA Office for AIDS Coordination, Dr. Randolph Wyckoff, addressed a congressional subcommittee on medical fraud. He asserted that no scientific evidence exists to support the use of ozone for AIDS. This man believes ozone therapy has saved his life.
They just make it very difficult for a person like myself to do it, but I am so determined that I am going to treat myself regardless of what the FDA wants, or whether, I don't care if they try to throw me in jail. There's nothing they can do. They'd have to throw me in jail first before I would stop, and also stop talking about it.
At an alternative cancer convention in Pasadena, ozone generators are being sold legally as water purifiers. Many will be used secretly for medical purposes. Alternative health care is a rapidly growing field. Ozone therapy is just one of many treatments that are used underground by doctors and therapists. They risk their license in using procedures not approved by orthodox medicine. In the United States, doctors and therapists have been harassed, offices have been raided, and ozone generators have been confiscated.
I will constantly run into doctors saying, well, you know, I've got an ozone machine, but don't tell anybody. I'm doing peroxide infusions, I'm doing ozone infusion, don't tell anybody. Or, well, if you're really sure about the person, tell them they can come see me, that sort of thing. Don't put me in the book, don't put me in the book.
McCabe's book has now sold more than 70,000 copies, and thousands of people have now used ozone therapy underground in North America. Suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome, this woman obtained a generator sold illegally by an American company. She prefers to remain anonymous.
One of the greatest things that I've learned is that we're all responsible for ourselves and for our own health and for our own healing. And sometimes that means getting disapproval from so-called authority figures, you know, because we don't have the total okay to do this in our country. You know, we feel that we have to do this in a way that is personal and private and underground. And it's very unfortunate.
Every year, hundreds of sick people travel south across the Mexican border to obtain ozone therapy from clinics that offer hope to dying patients.
Well, maybe I'm biased or something like that, but I feel that humanity is being shortchanged by people that have financial ambitions. I have cancer in the prostate and it's inoperable. So I'm boxed in. I don't know what else you can do. And the doctors couldn't answer very many questions that I had. So I started investigating myself.
All of the people who have attempted to introduce ozone equipment into the United States have met with a great deal of reticence, and roadblocks have been thrown up in their way constantly.
If somebody wants to get well, I think their attitude will be, why should I be confined to only one approach, and if that approach doesn't work, then I'm not allowed to do anything else. I think people want to have that freedom of choice and raise legitimate question with the system about whether they should be told by the state, in a sense, that there's only one or two ways that they should be treated. We have, in a sense, a state-authorized religion of healing, which is a certain kind of medicine, and that anything outside that is characterized as quackery.
Where can research be conducted for a treatment that lacks the support of a major drug company? In the United States, most public sector medical research is funded through the National Institutes of Health, a federal government agency which has an annual budget of more than $10 billion, supporting research in more than 2,000 American labs. The NIH has a mandate to investigate all promising therapies in the public interest. Hundreds of papers have now been written supporting medical use of ozone. Still, at the NIH, ozone therapy is not being researched. In 1991, thousands of people demonstrated at the NIH headquarters in Bethesda, Maryland, to protest mismanagement of AIDS research. The AIDS epidemic has revealed a healthcare system in a state of crisis. Thousands are dying while alternative therapies are being officially withheld or ignored by the medical establishment. While some have called ozone the medical breakthrough of this century, its future is far from certain.
You're making a documentary about the monolith of ozone. The truth. You picked the right drug.
The state of New York has suspended a diet guru's medical license because of alleged unconventional practices. It comes from a